It's December 2019, and you're watching The Lookout, a production of the Division of World Languages and Cultural Studies here at Minot State University. I'm Samuel Stinson, your host for this program. Our first guest is going to be Eric Furuseth from the English department here at Minot State. Eric, thank you for being on the program today.
My pleasure, Samuel.
So, as we begin this, I can't help but notice that you are in garb.
Yes, this is the garb, as you put it, of the Lord of the Manor for the Renaissance Feast, which is an annual choir concert that the Minot Chamber Chorale does, and I have been the Lord of the Manor for 26 years. I also write the jokes that go with it. We've got two jesters who dress up and paint their faces and so on. And unfortunately, I can't promote that because we did that already last weekend, but it's probably going to come around again next year, and it's a lot of fun, and it's one of the many things that's going on in the Minot music community during the Christmas season.
And I had the great opportunity, you had invited me to come to the Renaissance Feast and to
Yes, I was very glad that you could. Yeah. And you enjoyed it, I hope?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
It was wonderful entertainment, and we got to interact with a lot of the folks who were on the stage.
Yeah, that's we changed the setup a little bit this year, so there was much more interaction between the choir members in costume and the people who'd come in to watch the show.
So you have a music background. Could you tell us more about that?
Well, I grew up playing the piano or having piano lessons, and I played the trombone in band, but when I had always sung around the piano. My mom played the piano and we sang from the time I was very young. And then in high school, I first got involved in choir and church choir when I was about 16 or so. And in college, I dropped the trombone, and I was just a part of all of the choirs that the University of North Dakota, for instance, had. And it's just been a lifelong, real wonderful hobby, if you will. I've also been a big part of the Western Plains Opera here in Minot, where we have locals such as myself singing the small parts and in the chorus, and then we invite in professionals to sing the lead parts. Mm-hmm. So we've done many, many operas here. So I guess there's kind of a joke among especially instrumentalists that there are musicians and then there are singers. They differentiate because singers tend to be kind of looser about things. But as part of the humanities classes I teach music history, and I had 2 or 3 music history classes in college, and I've had a lot of, it's a passion for me over time. And so, yes, it's as much perhaps just part of my enjoyable free time as it is any sort of professional obligation I have. But yes, it is a big part of my life.
Now, I'm to understand there's an event coming up here soon with the Western Plains Opera.
Yes, in January, we're bringing in 4 professional leads, Hansel and Gretel, to play in our opera, Hansel and Gretel, by Engelbert Humperdinck. Strangely enough, maybe Engelbert Humperdinck, the Welsh singer, is not as well known now as he was at one time, but anyway. And we bring in the witch, which is a man, in this case, who sings in the countertenor or falsetto range. And so we will be having that show, which we are hoping to draw a large audience. We're going to have a kids showing as well. And I'd certainly encourage any of your viewers here to come on out. That will be in January 20-something. Keep your eyes open, if you will. That is our big production, at least. That's what I have the most to do with. I might add that coming up much sooner, this weekend, I don't know when this is airing. Is it airing before the weekend? The weekend of what would it be, the 13th, 14th?
The Great Hope.
14, 15.
Quite possibly, but it might. It might not,
Okay.
possibly.
Minot Symphony Orchestra is doing some great works, and also our chamber chorale choir master Emerson Eads is performing with them, as are some of our children's chorus. I say our because I've been so involved with Western Plains Opera, but we have an affiliate children's chorus with it as well. Mm-hmm. And on Sunday, the children's chorus, the Western Plains Opera Children's Chorus, is going to be performing at 3 o'clock, Saturday evening at 7:30. So the Christmas season, those are just Those are two large concerts with many, many participants, but the music division has a number of recitals since it's the end of the semester. In the world of music, this is always a busy, busy season.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So at this point in the program, I'll point out that we actually have an audience that we're here in the studio, a peanut gallery, if you will. So if there are any questions that we'd like to entertain at this point, feel free to call them out. And I'll point out that at this point for editing, we are probably going to cut this part out if we don't need it.
Yeah, Eric, do you wear that costume year-round?
No, I don't. I just
Oh,
wear it
just,
during the Renaissance
Okay, I just
feast, and
wondered.
then I
See you walking around
put
the
it in the
halls.
closet, and just once in a while will I pull it out and sort of look at myself. No, no, it is. It's not. I mean, I'm not obsessed with this costume.
It is a good look. It's a good look.
Thank you.
And in addition to Samuel, Eric actually invited a whole host of English faculty to see the Renaissance feast, so we had an entire table. And we won the 5 golden rings, what's the 12 days of
Whoa.
Christmas competition.
Yes,
It was
yes.
our table, it was the English table, but we think it was.
And it wasn't my choice. Pam Hopkins, the lady, said, "No, it's pick number 5." I said, "Well, what can I do?" Pick number 5. I must say, you guys did a great job, and you did have a little support of some others.
There were a few, other singers standing behind us.
But I said that it was my Christmas gift to the members of the department, and your Christmas gift to me was actually coming. So I'm glad that you appreciated the invitation and that you came, and I was very glad that you were there.
Absolutely. I felt like I had to take up the invitation since you had also invited me to Host Fest to scoop ice cream this year.
Yes. You deserve that reward for the hard work of scooping ice cream, which is a fundraiser for our Western Plains Opera.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we thank you so much for being on the program. Now, there is one more thing we're going to ask you to do, and that is to understand that you have a song for us.
Yes, it's Christmas time, and I'm wearing a Renaissance outfit, and so I'm going to sing a song that seems to have originated in the Renaissance. There's some question about this, but it may even have been written by Henry VIII, who was on the throne in the early 1500s at the time of the Renaissance. So the tune is the very familiar Greensleeves, and the lyrics are the Christmas lyrics, "What Child Is This?" So I'm just going to kind of sing it a cappella. You'll notice it has a kind of rocking beat to it, as though you're rocking the child to sleep. Okay? See if I can find a happy key to start out in. What child is this who laid to rest on Mary's lap is sleeping, whom angels greet with anthems sweet, while shepherds watch are keeping? This is Christ the King, whom shepherds guard and angels sing. Haste, haste to bring him, Lord, the babe, the Son of Mary. So bring him incense, gold, and myrrh. Come, shepherd king, to own him. The King of kings salvation brings. Let loving arms enthrone him. Raise, raise the throng on high. The Virgin sings a lullaby. Joy, joy, for Christ is born, the babe, the Son of Mary.
Excellent.
Thank you. That is the low version of that song. You probably won't hear it sung much lower than that. Okay.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, thank you so much for being on the program.
My great pleasure, my friend Samuel.
Welcome back. I'm talking now with Katy Halverson of the English department. Katy, thank you for being on the program.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So I'm to understand that you have a new book out.
I do.
Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
Well, it's called Faraway Women in the Atlantic Monthly, and it looks at a group of working class women from the American West of the early 20th century who ended up somehow or another getting published in the Atlantic, which is the high culture magazine of the 19th century, based in Boston. And it was going on a little bit of hard times in the early 20th century, and my argument in part is that the editor, by virtue of recruiting these Westerners to write for the magazine, he helped increase its circulation at the time.
So could you tell us a little bit about how this research came to be?
Oh, it was left over from my last book, which was published in 2013, and that's called Playing House in the American West, and it looked at more women writers, both fiction and nonfiction, and the arguments they make about domesticity. In particular, they describe their practice of unusual domesticity as making a case for themselves as somehow special in the West. And then I thought with all the leftover stuff that didn't make it in that book, I'd make a new book and gather it together, but of course it didn't quite work out as simply as that. I ended up having to write quite a bit more for it.
So for this particular book, what was something that surprised you about the research, or something that surprised you that came out of the research?
I just asked my students that question this morning, and I said, if something didn't surprise you, you've done something wrong. So now I have to think about this. Well, there's kind of weird stories. I mean, the one woman, she was based in far northern Alberta and near Fort Vermilion, and from reading her letters, you can see that she was really kind of whacked out. So going to the archives and seeing the stories behind the stories is interesting. I mean, I could go on. There's just all these things that reveal themselves. The one woman, she's called Eleanor Pruitt Stewart, and she's based in Wyoming, and I'd written about her in my last book too, in a different way. And I've never been so interested in going to the physical sites, right, where they wrote or where they lived. But I was doing research in Green River, Wyoming, at a local museum there that had some of her papers, and I was urged to take the time to drive to her homestead, which was an hour or so away. And I was surprised by how much that experience affected how I thought about her afterwards in the book, just having been on the physical place.
So could you talk a little bit more about that? What was it like being there at the actual homestead?
Well, you couldn't actually get to the actual homestead. You could draw it because it's privately owned, so you had to be on a ridge road looking out over the valley and just peeking, just seeing the edge of the cabin. But her book makes it, I'd always imagined as this bleak, this little shed on a bleak plain, and then it was actually very lush and with forests and giant mountain views, which solved one question I had, which is that after she published, a lot of Easterners and some kind of well-known ones came out and they spent vacations at her homestead. And I could never figure out what kind of vacation they were having on a little shack in a bleak plain, but then I could see after seeing the property what the appeal was, the geographical appeal.
So you had mentioned that this book connects to your previous book, your third book. Do I have that right? Is it your third book?
This is the third one.
This is the third one.
And so it connects up to the second. And actually, oh yeah, in the first one, the one writer, so my free book site all include a chapter on one woman. It includes a chapter on this African American travel writer. Mm-hmm. And the one to come, which I think I've mentioned to you, is on that writer. So that woman who's been there since, I can't actually remember if she was in my dissertation or not, but I think shortly thereafter, so since 97 or so. So I've been writing about her. Different chapters with different focuses, and it was the same thing. After I finished this book, or while I was finishing it, I had so much more to say about this one writer, and I was trying to shove it into this chapter, which was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then luckily I realized, it really was an epiphany, this will be the next book. And so I started that in Wyoming, and it's been a couple of years now, but working on a biography of her, just her. So at that point I thought I will throw every single thing I know about this woman in this book, but already, now that I'm about halfway through, I'm realizing I can't throw every single thing I know about her, so there's just too much.
So in looking at your biography on the website, I'm to understand that you've lived and worked in multiple other countries outside of the U.S.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My first permanent job was in Japan, and I was there for about 10 years. And towards the end of that, I got a Fulbright in Norway, so I taught there and researched there for a year. And while in Norway, I interviewed in Copenhagen and ended up getting an offer there. So went back to Japan, did my post-sabbatical year there, and finished things up, and then took that job in Denmark until 2016.
So what is it like having so much teaching experience in so many different locales? What is it in terms of teaching here in Minot? It seems like you bring a lot of experience from a lot of different places.
Yeah. I mean, I guess every student population is very different and distinct. And one thing you think of when you're overseas, you think, oh, I was just teaching Americans American literature, they would know so much, and I could just start up a second level. Like, I could skip all the groundwork and start in. And one thing I found coming here is that no, in fact, you cannot do that. That they don't really have as much knowledge as you might think. And it is refreshing to teach mostly native speakers now. Like, get your jokes a little quicker. Well, yeah, it depends.
Okay, well, Katie, thank you so much for being on the program. I
thank
really
you.
appreciate being able to talk with you.
That.
Thank you so much. We'll be right back. So we're talking with Katy Allers here from the Department of English here at Minot State University. Katy, thank you for being on the program.
Well, thank you for having me.
So Katy, I'm to understand that you are a first-time director now of a play that's coming up.
Yes, I am. It's the Campus Players. It's one of the oldest clubs here on campus. It's a student-led production, and they asked me if I would direct it, and I'm having such a great time doing it. Everything's completely student-led, from the costumes to the set design to the painting with the art students, and it's just been a real good time just doing it.
Well, that's wonderful. Could you tell us a little bit about the play itself?
Sure. It's called the Brothers Grimm Spectaculathon. It's a show that has 209 fairy tales all put into one 2-hour show. So it goes pretty fast, and it's a lot of fun. We've got Snow White and Cinderella, and some really obscure ones from the Brothers Grimm, the Fisher Girl and the Crab People, and all sorts of different type of shows or stories.
Reminds me of, what was that one? Was it Sondheim, Into the Woods?
Yep, it's almost along. In fact, I was in Into the Woods at the Western Plains Opera with Eric Furseth that you had on here earlier. And we're using some of those props for this show as well because they fit in so well.
Excellent. So Katy, you were earlier telling me that this is also a fundraiser event.
Yes, the Campus Players attend a festival it'll be in Sioux Falls this January, and it's the KCACTF. Don't ask me what that stands for. It's the Kennedy Center for Acting and Theater. I think that's right. But these students go to this week-long festival, and this is a fundraiser to help them raise the funds to get there.
So do you know by chance how many years the event has been held?
The theater, I'm not sure. It's been quite a while. I'd say probably 20 years.
Excellent. So I also, while you're here on the program, wanted to ask you a little bit about your background. Now, I'm to understand that you grew up in Alaska.
Yes, I did. I was born and raised. I was born in Fairbanks, and then I was raised in Wasilla, Alaska.
Wasilla. So you've got a lot of experience in Alaska and a lot of experience in North Dakota. So what was it like growing up in Alaska?
Oh, I look back on it now and I think it was just wonderful. There was so many things that my kids would never get to experience. Things like taking out the trash to the cage that we have the trash in and a quarter mile down the road because we don't want the bear to come too close to the house. And we kept it in a cage. So that's one thing, it's not taking the trash can out to the boulevard. It's taking it down the road so that the bear don't get too close to your house.
Wow. So you had a lot of experiences out with nature, it sounds like.
Oh, absolutely. We used to camp all the time in a tent in Alaska, and the wildlife is huge up there, and there's a lot of bear, which we're more afraid of the bear than the moose, but we would put up our campsite, and then we'd take soda cans and fill them with rocks, and then we'd string them all around the campsite so that in the middle of the night, my dad and my uncles would all sleep with a gun, and in the middle of the night, if they heard anything shake, they would get up and make sure that the bear didn't get us.
All right, well, Katy, I want to take a moment now and ask some of our Peanut Gallery folks if you have additional questions for our guest.
Wasilla became rather famous a few years ago.
Yes, in 2008.
In 2008, when someone from Wasilla was a vice presidential candidate. Did you happen to know her?
Yes, I do. Sarah Palin is actually one of my good friends.
Oh,
I
really?
grew up with her, yes. But I do want to set the record straight that there may be things out there that say that Sarah led our basketball team to state, but she scored 1 point and I scored 6.
Yay!
I just want to set that straight.
Gotta set it straight, set the record.
Yes, but yes, she is a friend of mine. I'm actually in her book, the Going Rogue book. There's a picture of me. I actually surprised her down in Sioux Falls when she was doing a book signing and ended up signing my picture for a few people. So there's about 75 people out there in the world that have my autograph in her book.
Wow, that's amazing. Well,
Can you see Russia from Wasilla?
On a clear day, if you're in Nome, Alaska, you can see Russia, but not from anybody's backyard in Wasilla, Alaska.
So thinking about your play as a director, what's been one of your bigger challenges?
Biggest challenges is this is a rough time for kids because it's Christmas. They've got finals coming up. Attendance and energy levels is probably the roughest part of it. You know, I made sure to tell the kids every day after rehearsal we give notes, and I would tell them, okay, now go home and do your homework and get some rest.
What
So
about for you personally?
for me personally, I haven't done my Christmas shopping yet. That's one thing, but there hasn't been a lot of challenges with that. I've absolutely adored doing this show, and I've enjoyed it so much that I want to do more. I never thought I would be able to. I was on stage all the time, and now I'm on the other side of it, and I actually am enjoying that even more.
excellent. Well, Katy, thank you so much for being on the program.
Yes, thank you for having me.
We're now talking with Greg Vettel. He is the director of the Northwest Arts Center here at Minot State University. Greg, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the inaugural first episode podcast. I guess this is probably the first podcast I've ever been on. So.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Well, it's certainly good to have you aboard. So I was going to ask you about some of the exhibits of the Art Center, but first I think I'd like to ask a little bit about the history, if you could, of the Art Center.
Yeah. Well, the Northwest Art Center has actually been an organization on campus since 1992. It was formally organized to manage the Hartnett Hall Gallery and the other galleries on campus at that time, and it was built to kind of support a gallery structure that had existed since the late 60s, early 70s. But just recently, we're coming up on our 2-year anniversary, there was a new state-of-the-art facility that was built in the lower level of the Gordon B. Olson Library on campus. 6,700 square feet. We've got an incredible climate-controlled gallery, collection storage for the Minot State University collections, both the art and Native American collections, and also a workroom and reception, kind of like hosting space, outer gallery.
Excellent.
So, the Art Center on average has about 16 to 20 exhibitions per calendar year, and that can range from both local, regional, and state artists. We have the juried student show and capstone exhibitions for our art majors on campus, and we also host 2 international juried shows at the Art Center.
Excellent. So what kind of exhibits are currently there at the Art Center?
Currently for December, we have a North Dakota artist who is actually an alum of Minot State. Mark Holter has acrylic abstract paintings in the gallery until the end of December, and then we're also displaying selected works from a donation of former Professor Walter Peel. I should note that the main gallery space is actually dedicated to Walter in recognition of his 47 years teaching at Minot State University. But we have selections from his retrospective exhibit that he donated to the university permanent collection. In January, leading off the new semester, we have one of our annual juried shows, which is a Paperworks, America's Paperworks 2020, which has a really long history. This is its 49th year. and we missed a year in, I don't know, 92 or 93. But it was started by faculty and students at Minot State in I think 1970 was or 1969 was like the first year that it was held. And its original intent was to bring contemporary art to Minot State University that you would never, kind of like get in this part of North Dakota, but also to build a teaching permanent collection. And due to our annual juried shows that we have the purchase awards for different artworks from, and also several donations, including the most recent one from Walter Peel, we now have a permanent art collection that numbers over 1,300 works at Minot State.
Certainly, that's very impressive.
It's actually, that is pretty incredible for a university of our size and location. It's a incredible academic collection. So
I'd like to ask about your experience with Minot State and with the Art Center. So what is one experience with the Art Center that has served, something you think is very memorable to you?
Well, I'm a Minot State alum, and coming back and seeing the new facility at Minot State, and I'm also adjunct in the art department, but coming back and seeing the investment that Minot State has made in the arts, and in particular in the Art Center and also in the art department at Minot State is really, it's something special. And one of the things that struck me the most, not only like having the facility and the Art Center space for hosting exhibitions and campus groups and also community events, but it's the opportunity of the Art Center to be used as a teaching resource with Minot State University students. We host interns at the Art Center. We have student employees and student work study. So I think currently this semester we have a staff of, I think, 7 student workers, but we're also the main classroom space for the Minot State Museum Studies course, which has nine students in it.
And we were talking earlier, you were telling me that the Art Center is available for events?
Yeah, the Art Center, both for campus groups and off-campus groups, is available as an event space or even a rental space for off-campus groups. So if there are club meetings or campus events, one of the ones that's been very successful is the Campus Community Dialogue Series that's organized by the Robert Kibler here on campus, and has featured several it's like a debate format, and has featured several controversial topics of discussion, and campus and community members are invited and are able to participate in these great dialogues about kind of like getting back to, how to say it, like comprehensive and civil debate about important topics.
Now let's take some questions from the Peanut Gallery. So what do we have?
Do you find you spend a lot of time looking for grants and things like that to help sustain your
Yes,
efforts?
there's been one of our primary pursuits. I've been the director at the Art Center since August of 2018. Avis Vikely, who was the previous director for 12 years, retired in that summer, and one of the primary activities that we've been working on is applying to both state and federal grants for collections management, for kind of the further development of the Arts Center infrastructure. One of the things they built, we have an incredible climate-controlled storage room, but we lack the specialty museum cabinetry to properly house and maintain all of the Minot State University collections. So that's one of our primary goals for our collections grant writing.
And that would be quite expensive, I suppose.
Yes, our preliminary quotes were $175,000, I think.
Okay.
It's high.
But one of the good opportunities that we have is we are, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the North Dakota Council on the Arts, because they, as a state agency, provide very important monies to the Art Center through their institutional support granting. And also the Institute of Museum and Library Services is IMLS is who are doing our primary federal grant writing too. So it's a tough thing. There's each organization that you write towards has a different set of things that they look for. So it's good though. It's
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely. Any more questions? Additional questions? All right.
All right. I'd love to see more music events in the Art Center.
Really?
I
Well,
would.
that's
I would.
interesting.
I would. Emerson
Yeah.
brings the choir over to practice,
Yeah,
and
he
it's
loves the sound of it.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've had the Dakota Chamber Music has been the recitals.
Talking
The
about doing
recitals.
Renaissance
Yeah.
Feast over there.
That would be
Yeah.
most
Whether
welcome.
the space is
Little small.
It'd be tough. Our fire code limit is 142, so
Yeah.
it would be tight. Although I'd love to hang some of those Renaissance and medieval banners
Yes.
from the walls. That'd be great.
Well, that would be great. Okay, well, it's, we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Well, Greg, thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're going to close the program today with a conversation with Robert Kibler. Robert has been essential in setting up the podcast and getting everything started. So, Robert, I was hoping we could talk a little bit about what the vision is for the podcast and what we'd like to have done and what we'd like the podcast to do.
You know, we had a radio show for 2 years called Literary Lookout, where we brought faculty to the radio station to talk about what they did and their avocations as well. But we lost that contract, and we thought, well, should we just leave it there? Samuel came on board as an assistant professor of rhetoric, and he has a background in computer science and all the gizmos that are back here that make a program like this run. So we just sort of brainstormed, did we? That sort of think we can make our own video, radio podcast and highlight our talent. So, and there's a need. You know, we are kind of an unsung university in the state and beyond, and yet we are, I think as you can see even tonight, a very talented group of people. You know, Katy Halverson's just popping books out every year and a half, and Eric is singing down the hallway, and Lee Johnson can handle any kind of equipment to make the show run, and Samuel can do a whole variety of things. So we want to make the world aware of who we are and extend our footprint.
And I give you a lot of credit for this because largely this format, this venue was your idea. We had initially talked about an audio podcast, but I really like the idea of making this something where we can see one another, where we can have guests on and really, like you said, increase our footprint and help to promote the humanities and what it is that we do.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Well, Robert, thank you again for sharing your vision, and I'm going to continue to promote the program, and I hope that you continue to watch. Thank you so much for being here and watching us as we start this pilot program.
It might be worth mentioning, Samuel, that our hope is to have a 30-minute broadcast each week.
Yes.
And if you're out there listening and you're either a student or a faculty member, and you see either me or Samuel coming, I think you'll know what we want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to close by saying our school's motto. Remember, this is Minot State University. Be seen, be heard, be inspired. Thank you.